Hello everyone, welcome back to a new tutorial series I'm starting. I've been getting a lot of questions about how to bring your models from Maya into Substance Painter, how to get your normals and all that kind of stuff together, normals, height maps, ID maps, how to prep your model for Substance Painter, and then how to take your model once it's been textured in Substance Painter and getting it set up inside Unity correctly. So I'm going to give you my entire process. We've been working with Indie Studio for a little while, and while there are still areas we can optimize, this is the process we're using, and hopefully this helps you guys out. So this is a model that one of my artists had been working on. It's not finished, but it's close enough for us to be able to continue to work with it and to create a demo for our tutorial series. So it's just a canister, something very simple. I'm not going to go through the modeling process. If you guys are really interested in how this was made, it's not a complex process. If you leave a few comments down below, I'll do a short tutorial series on how to make this canister if you guys are all interested. If not, I'll just go ahead and move on, pretending that you guys have a very simple looking canister like this. If not, if you guys can create one before you guys start following along. Okay, so the polygon count right now for everything is currently somewhere around 2,500 quads or almost 5,000 triangles. So for this is not game ready. That's way too many polygons for this small game object. So we need to create a low res version of this object for us to be able to bake down information into. So we're going to create ourselves a new cylinder. I'm using Maya 2018 LT, which is the same thing as Maya 2018. It's just got some of the features stripped away because I'm not paying as much for the full version. So here we go. We got our cylinders right here. I can go ahead and just click on this. It'll drop a cylinder into my scene, which currently it's on the inside of my model, which is okay as long as I know that's where it's at. I'll just go ahead and pull it up over here using my move tools. This is not a tutorial series on how to use Maya, by the way, so some of the things I'm going to presume you guys already know how to do about a lot of these software packages. I'm not going to give you the blow-by-blow on how to use Maya. I have an introduction to Maya tutorial series, a couple of them actually. You guys can go through those. So if I happen to go through something and you don't know how to do it, and you can't figure it out, go ahead and leave a comment below, and I will hopefully get back to you and answer those. All right, so I'm going to use the cylinder here that I created. I'm just going to scale it up until it fits over the top of this high-res cylinder. Okay, it's pretty good. I want everything to be on the inside of this so that the details can get baked through. Okay. It's pretty good. Let's go down here. There we go. Now that's on the inside. I need a little bit on the top. It's okay if it's right on the surface, but you want everything to kind of be inside this low-res cage. Okay, that's good for now. All right, so I'm going to add some resolution so I can kind of get as close as I can to the rest of this high-res version before moving forward. So I'm going to drop in an edge loop here. I'm going to drop one right there. Drop one right in here. Okay. I'm going to go vertex mode. And I'm going to get this guy here scaled down to where it fits. Somewhere in there, that's good. And I'll bring this guy here up. Okay. We'll probably add a bevel in here, just go ahead and give it that extra resolution. So I'm going to go over here, I'm going to go to edge mode, add the bevel. I'll pull the fraction back from 0.5 down to 0.2. And that kind of gives it a nice little bit of rounding. That way it helps with the normal maps, works a little bit better. Okay, now the bottom side. Bottom side doesn't have as many details, so it should go a little faster. Okay, it looks like I need to move this over just a little bit. I just use my move pivot tool to change it to where it's following along this edge here. Okay, so that's good. Uh-oh. Looks like I messed something up over here. Okay, so I'm going to have to back up just a little bit, guys. Sorry about that. I'll run through it really quickly. Looks like when I grabbed, I didn't grab all of them, I just grabbed this top setup here. Better? I think that's good. Yeah, kind of botched that a little bit. My bad. Okay, we'll keep going here. Back to point 2. Go back here. Gonna add a bevel on this one here. I know that's a little bit differently than I just did it, but I'm just trying to accelerate my process. Right there. Okay. And I think that like these guys here are sticking out a little bit too much for the bake, so we're gonna actually get this entire loop here. I'm just going to scale it out until it encompasses everything again. And scale it the y-axis. That's about right. And it looks like this part here where the bevel is needs to also be both raised up and scaled out so that it also is covering everything. That's pretty good. That's acceptable. Okay. That part's done. So I'm going to go ahead and name this thing here. I'm going to go ahead and call it, we'll first delete the history on it. So history, these transforms. I'm going to call this canister low. Okay, and I'll just move this off to the side for a second. Since the transforms are frozen, that makes it to where now I can just zero out this translate X and it'll pop it back to its original position. Okay, all these guys here, so it has a bunch of bolts on there as well. So I'm going to make sure I go ahead and combine all this down to one object for the bake. So I'm going to go ahead and combine this. Okay, that's good. Go ahead and delete the history. Transforms, center pivot. I'm going to go ahead and call this one canister underscore height. Okay, and then I'll zero this thing back out, so it is now back on top of it. Okay, that's good. All right, so next step. So let me go ahead and separate these two again for 1 second. For those who are familiar with this, which I hope you are, if you're not, I would suggest you go ahead and read up a little bit on how UVs work. But we don't have to lay the UVs out for this entire canister like some may fear. Like, oh no, look at all that geometry, separating that and making it to where all the edges are hard and all the UVs are straight. It's going to be a pain in the butt for such a simple object. Which, if we were trying to do the UVs on this, that would be totally true. But since we're only having to deal with the low res, we don't have to lay out the UVs for this. This details are just going to get baked down onto this object here. Okay, so it's all we have to do is lay out the UVs for this object. So I'm going to go ahead and zero this back out one more time. And now I'm going to go into the UV texture editor. So we're going to go ahead and open up a split screen here. We'll go to panels, panel, UV editor. And there's a shortcut. This icon here will open up the UV editor, but it'll give me a full screen, which will make it to where it's not so conducive for what we're working with here for our tutorial. So I'm making it to where you guys can see everything that's going on. You're welcome. All right. So here is our UVs. Now, some of you who are new may say, okay, it looks like my UVs are laid out and I have UVs. Incorrect. Your UVs are not laid out and they are not ready yet. This is the default UV set that they give you, but it will not work for texturing. So we're going to have to lay out our UVs first. So we're going to go ahead. Our object is already selected. On the top here, now remember we're in the modeling tabs here, and the menu sets will say UV right here. And then we'll go down to where it says automatic. You just go ahead and with the automatic UV unwrapper, go ahead and take care of business. Okay, there it is. If you feel like you need to adjust your projection planes, you can do it here. For now, I think that it's going to be just fine. In more complex objects, I'd probably want to go ahead and scale these planes to where they better fit my object. But since I can adjust that over here in the UV editor, that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and exit this, go over here. Now, one thing you guys want to know about is what's called texel density. Now, I'm hoping that all of you guys already know what texel density is. If you don't, I'll give you a quick crash course. This object is fairly simple, so I can't really get too complex on the subject. But if you're working inside of games or big environments, texel density is huge because it means that if your texel density is not consistent all the way through your project, some things will look like they have great detail and some things will look very pixelated. So how do we accommodate that? We are going to make sure that all of our UVs are using an equal amount of UV space. So to do that, Maya has this little icon right here, which will cause there to be a checker box, kind of like checkers, all over our object. So I'll go ahead and click on this and see what I'm talking about. Okay, so there we go. They're laid out, and in some cases, like this one here, you can see all the squares are fairly even, and over here you can see that they look like they're a little bit stretched. Now we got to make sure that everything is nice and even, otherwise our UVs will be stretched. And I can see here as well, there's another case of it being stretched right in here. So we'll relax UVs where we need to and harden them in other spots. You can see here too it's kind of waving. That might be an issue. But we can handle a lot of that over here. So the main thing you want to make sure you have when you're doing this, beyond just making sure they're not warped or distorted, is that all the squares are the same size. So that's basically what texel density is. That as you look around your objects, they all have the same size checkers, telling you that each UV shell has the same amount of UV space respectively. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn this off. I'm going to separate off a couple pieces here. So this piece here, I think I'm going to take off along with this one. And I'm going to go to my cut and sew tool and just go to cut. Oops, I'm not sure what I just did there. I'm going to do that. Cut. There we go. And now inside this UV editor, you can see as I'm moving my mouse around the edges here, you can see over on this side that they're highlighting. It's telling you that's where, when you sew, that's where it's going to go. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on each one of these guys. And I'm going to go to the cut and sew, and down at the bottom here it says move and sew. Go ahead and click that. Now it is over here. Something else is very helpful if you're using UV editors a lot, which if you're a 3D modeler, you will be using them a lot. Making sure that you have this icon active. It is shade UV shells. Makes it to where your islands are much more easy to look at inside the UV editor. Also lets you see if things are overlapping, like you see here. This one here is overlapping. It wasn't so apparent before, but now that they're together, you can see they're overlapped, and where they're overlapped is a darker color blue. Okay, so we'll go ahead and move this island. So something else you want if you're new to UV editing, you can go to face mode and move these, but you want to be in UV mode primarily in the UV editor. So UVs will act, they'll let you select the individual vertex, is pretty much is what they are inside the UV editor. It's essentially doing like point polling, and you can highlight a bunch of them. But the easiest way to get the entire island is just go to UV shell, and that'll let you click on one entire shell rather than trying to select all the vertexes or UVs on the inside here. Then I can just move this shell over here. Okay, this guy here is almost ready. I just need to get this part here attached back over here. So I'm going to go to edge mode, I'm going to select, oops, let's click over here. I'm going to do a marquee box around this section right here. Okay, I'm going to go to move and sew. There it is. Okay, I'm going to go to UV shell. I'm going to go ahead and select this guy. And I want this to be actually unwrapped. So that, or not unwrapped, I'm sorry, relaxed. So it doesn't have these bumpy corners here. So there's a hotkey is Control U, or you can go to Modify, and down at the bottom here it says Unfold. Control U is much more easy to do. I like my hotkey, so that's what I'm going to do. Control U, and there we go. Now it's nice and relaxed. Looks good. Okay. Next, these guys here, I want them to be attached. The bottom parts down here, though, this is going to be a little bit of a problem because they're beveled downwards. So if I try to attach them down on the bottom here, they'll be stretching. So I'm going to have to cut this bottom bevel off. Probably up here as well. Okay, so I'm just going to cut all those at the same time. Cut, go to UV shell, I'm going to select each one of them and just move them off to the side here. Okay, now I'm going to be able to stitch these together and not have to worry about dealing with stretching. So I'm going to go to edge mode, I'm going to select each edge, go to move and sew. Now that I've done that operation once, the hotkey to repeat last command is G. So I'm just going to select this edge, hit G, and that just pops it in there. Okay, same thing over here, hit G, boom, there we go. Okay, so now I have the entire outside wrap done. So I can go ahead and take this guy and position it on the inside. Hopefully it fits. Looks like it's just a little too big. Okay, well, we'll fix that. Let's take a look at these edges over here. Okay, so let's go to move and sew. Move and sew. Move and sew. Move and sew. I'm going to go to UV shell, select all of it. I'm going to hit Control U. Remember that's unfold or relax. I'm sorry. Come on, relax. Okay, it doesn't want to relax for some reason. Interesting. Let's take a look here. Let's try that now. There we go. Not sure why it wasn't wanting to let me do it with shell mode, but okay, we got it. Okay, so there we go. That one's good. And I can just stack this one on top of this guy here as well. So I'm just going to go to move and sew. Okay, so now we got these two here. Let's put this right here. Take this one, put it right here. Okay, let's check our Texel density now and see if we have stretching. We should be good. Looks like most UVs are about the right size. Okay, let's just grab this guy here. Go to UV mode, make sure that Control U. Okay, that made it to where now the UVs are all relaxed and not stretched. Okay, down here, that all looks good. Perfect. Okay. Now all we gotta do is make to where this fits inside of here. Okay, so I'm gonna go to UV shell. I'm going to grab all of them at the same time, and I'm sacrificing a little bit of UV space to accommodate this shell here. A little bit more. There we go. Okay. Now that I'm done, I can go ahead and hit delete history. Because if you look over here in the inputs, the history inputs are starting to build up for this one little object. So I'm just going to go ahead and clear that out. Okay, there we go. Alright, so for now, I am done with the UV texture editor. None of my UVs are overlapping, meaning these shells are not on top of each other in any way. All the UVs are even, and we're good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and close this and go back to my perspective view. Okay, that's good. Now I am ready to export my two objects. So I'm going to actually do what I should have done at the very beginning of the project, but I'm going to go ahead and do it now anyways. I'm going to go to Project Window. This one's going to be called Canister Tut. Hit Accept. Go to Set Project. Oops. Canister. Sorry guys, you get to see my messy area here. Some of it's in nice product folder, some of it is outside the projects. And where's my folder I just created? There it is at the very top. Perfect. Okay, let's step to that one. There we go. Alright, so now that we have our product created, our product is set to this scene here. I can now go to File, Export Selection. We'll export as an FBX, and it's going to my canister scenes folder, and it's going to be called canister low. Okay, export selection. And now I'm going to shift select, so that way now I have the high here selected. You can't really tell because it's on the inside of the low, but if you isolate it, you can see that I do indeed have the high selected. Okay, so I'm going to now go to File and Export Selection. And this one's going to be canister high. There we go. Alright, so we have our low res created, we have our UVs laid out, we have our low and high exported and ready for baking. So this is where I'm going to end this lesson. In the next lesson, we are going to pick up inside of XNormal. XNormal, we are going to bake all the texture maps we need. And then we are going to go into Photoshop and create an ID map for Substance Painter based off of some of the maps we get from XNormal. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next lesson.